Now we jump ahead to Melville, The Human Condition, The Existential Man. This is one of the most influential films in film history, whether people working today know it or not, because it's influenced them through all of the imitation.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Take 5, the podcast where we take a cinema legend, take 5 of their films, and highlight their excellence and range. My name is Austin Luger.
My name's Eric Martindale.
And this is our wrap-up episode. This is the show we do after we finish one of these 5s. So we can kind of look back at the director, see what the films we watched, the films we didn't watch, and just see if we have a new assessment of this artist after this month and change. We just finished our 5 on Jean-Pierre Melville, the French director, who's really kind of he's not a household name even for kind of cinephiles. He's a bit under the radar.
You know, I was looking him up the other day. I can't remember where it was. It was like Empire, it was a list of top 100 directors, and then I was looking at looking where he'd fall on that list, and then I did a little more Google searching, and he's always on those lists, but he's always like 84th or 93rd or 78th. You know what I mean? So I mean, I think he is a bit of an unusual pick this early in the 5, but we've had those.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I methink he was an inevitable podcast at some point, an inevitable 5 that we would do.
It's just kind of funny to me because I've always had some directors in my back pocket, like, okay, we'll do one of these next, but it was usually based on like a 5 you just finished, like, okay, that one was very like sentimental, I'm going to hold off on this one now, let's go this way, just kind of do a response. And to me, he was always in my back pocket for a while because, we covered 5 of his films.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about him for several months.
Yeah.
Point, right?
I've seen, I believe, 2 more of his films. And
not a very big canon.
No. In fact, he only has one more film after Cercle Rouge.
He died fairly young, I think.
Yeah. Called Un Flic, which I've not seen. But these 5 films we covered, I gave 3 of them 5 stars. The guy made some pretty fucking great movies.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely like him way more than I do.
Yeah.
My problems with it, and I kind of touched about this on Le Cercle Rouge, so I'll just get the problems out before I can compliment what I think is...
we should probably say what we covered.
Oh, yeah. Well, we covered Bob Le Flambeur, Liam Morin Priest, Les Samourai, Army of Shadows, Le Cercle Rouge. I'm glad I don't have to say those anymore, so I don't have to butcher those names anymore.
We never learned them.
So, I love Leon Morin Priest. I think that's a fantastic movie. Totally, the performances, the story, all of it's, great. And I think part of the, what's interesting about it is I think it's the one of these 5 films with maybe the exception of Army of Shadows, and even then I still think there's elements that are very Melville-ish in those. Liam Morin Priest feels like a completely different film than these other ones. Way different. It's on a different planet compared to these films. And I don't mean quality-wise, I mean just general, what is the film?
He has such a noir aesthetic. And obviously, I would say 3 of these are straight up noir films. Army of Shadow uses noir
elements,
and noir element. Mm-hmm. This is using still a bit of noir, but not a lot, to do a really intimate character study about faith.
Yeah, right. And regardless, even if those elements of noir are being used, I mean, technically, you really have some of the most cliche noir archetypes in it. You have kind of like the detective and the damsel, right? Mm-hmm. In the film, and the priest and the woman. But really, none of those things feel like thematic tropes because the actual plot of the film is so far removed from that. Removing what I loved about that film compared to the other ones is Liam Morin Priest was the only one of the films that actually felt like it had some warmth and humanity in it, something actually cooking in the oven. There are shots of it, and I mean shots, I don't mean like camera shots, I mean doses of that in some of the other films, in particular in Bob Le Flambeur, in his feelings he has towards the young girl and whatnot, but they never really come in big doses, and there never really is enough in the film to keep me actually invested in the characters. And this just comes down to personal taste. I mean, we've talked about this before, and things that I need from a story. And the big thing I need from the story is I need to feel that humanity. I cannot, and even if it could be there and I'm just not getting it, I'm not the end all be all on that, but I need that. And if I'm watching a film that is purely just a film by a talent, someone who's very talented at creating a world and creating aesthetic. If you're not able to populate that world with characters with problems that I can relate to and care about, then I just won't like the film as much. So we have an example, Les Samurai, which is an absolutely beloved noir French masterpiece that everyone loves, and yet I'm watching the film thinking it's rather dull and boring because I'm just not getting... The archetypes are killing it for me. Even if he's the coolest archetype ever, he's still Boba Fett.
Well, and it's so interesting because, I actually felt a lot of that humanity in Bob the Flambeur and Army of Shadows when I realized as things become really hairy for them, how much I just pitied them and wanted them to succeed. That their situation was so difficult and so seemingly damned from just the way that Bob is spiraling and the way that the Resistance just seems so underfunded, and how do you stop a behemoth like the Third Reich? Mm-hmm. That desperation was actually my vessel of humanity for those movies in a way. The Samurai to me is when you get such a curiosity factor that it is something so uniquely special where, much like during the first season of Mad Men, before you have a really firm grasp on who Don Draper is. That's the nature of a TV show. It's going to run for 70 more hours. But there was always something there where you he is moving and acting in a way that feels very consistent scene to scene, and is enough of an enigma that I want to kind of keep watching, if only to see how he continues to keep operating. And Les Samurai was that, plus an entire world. I want to say bending, because it just means that Les Samurai... No, it's not his character's name, but of course it is.
Because literal Les Samurai.
Because
personified.
I mean, he's not Neo. He's not bending the world to his whim.
He's actually not very good at it.
The great thing is he is so good. If everyone just believes he's good, let him just shut the fuck up. Just do my job, and it will be fine.
We talked about this when we talked about the film, right? I mean, his capacity for completing the mission at the end of the film is poor.
Which I've not rewatched since that discussion, but I'm just in general...
He's going to shoot her in public in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. That's not a good... I mean, I'm not a hitman, but I'm this isn't going to work.
See, I am a hitman. Okay. There are moments in the job where you go...
He broke your golden rule,
It's not my best.
Be good at your job.
And then he died.
Yeah, and he died for it. Yeah, exactly. So that's redeemable.
That character can't do a perfect thing, then die.
But see, that's a great example because it works here, right?
Yeah.
It works here, and it doesn't work in Les Cercle Rouge when the characters die at the end.
Right.
There's no, by all means, kill your main character.
Sure.
But, do it satisfyingly. There's a way to do it. It felt so unsatisfying in Les Cercle Rouge because I didn't even care to begin with. Les Samurai is at least created an interesting enough world where the dynamics and the clockwork works in such a way that I'm excited to watch him die.
Right.
For a mistake. That's the suspense, really, right? When you're doing a film that involves a hitman, the suspense is in the how's he gonna fuck up and get killed, right?
Right.
Yeah. Shit. That's the suspense. When Le Cercle Rouge, it's they stole the money, and then the fence guy is actually working with the cops, so the cops just show up and shoot him. It's
who gives a shit?
Yeah, that's not cool at all.
But, I mean, let's look back, I guess, on Liam Morin Priest a bit. How do you think Melville makes those characters... Is it just the script? I mean, I know it's still Melville writing it, but it's from a book. How does he present the characters to you in a way that made you engage so early, I believe?
Well, because the problems were problems of the common man, right? So, in Bob Le Flambeur, I don't know what it's like to be a aristocratic gambler who goes to prison and is now a police officer.
You'll get there.
Informant. Les Samurai, I'm not a hitman. Army of Shadows, I'm not that badass. Le Cercle Rouge, I'm not a fugitive. I'm not been in prison. Again, these characters feel really distant from the common human conditions, the common human struggles. Liam Morin Priest is a story about a woman who has either lost her faith or has never attained faith and has trouble accepting a religion, particularly in the forefront of standing up and watching the Third Reich. Whereas in The Priest, is a good priest who's dealt with these situations before or whatever, and actually does a good job of trying to not necessarily convert someone, albeit he does do that, but also having a conversation with someone about religion. These are common man problems that aren't really as present. Flambeur a little bit more.
I mean, you added a lot of the plot. I mean, ultimately, it's a man who's burnt out, but he can't retire.
Right. You can do that with that film. And in Army of Shadows, you can do that with the various characters.
It's just desperation to live.
But Leon Priest is about that. And in Les Samurai, you can't do that. In Les Cercle Rouge, you can't. You can't do it in Les Cercle Rouge because the two characters are fugitives and they're cookie cutter, and the cop is the color beige.
Yeah.
which we talked about. So I think that's probably it. And that's not to say I can't relate to, Indiana Jones, too. And I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying what moved the needle for me as compared to the other films, because I started to see a trend of distance and lack of humanity and empathy and coldness in these films that again, watching the films in and of themselves or on their own probably wouldn't have bothered me, but watching this 5 kind of bogged me down a little bit.
And it's curious because it only really got to me during Army of Shadows when the element of being bogged down was no longer, it had zero escapism in it. Mm-hmm. Whereas there is fun. Noir is the contradicting genre, right? Mm-hmm. It's about blackness and shadows and how every city is awful and out to get you.
But let's fun to watch. Let's go live it.
Oh my god, there's a Noir Fest coming on. We got to watch TCM all weekend.
Yeah.
It's enjoying that macabre element. Army of Shadows, once you get into just normal people desperate to stop fucking Nazis from being in their homes, is something so poignant and sad that's when it got to me, because it's not a fun movie to watch. Yeah. In fact, all the set pieces are deliberately not fun.
Well, you know what it kind of ended up playing out for me is Army of Shadows almost felt like my real struggle with Melville's 5. Like, because it's kind of weird. We watched Tarkovsky. Okay, we've done that.
We definitely did.
Right, and I almost felt more bogged down by this. There was just a coldness and a distance in the films that was kind of palpable. I mean, like they're poppy too. Like Bob Le Flambeur, like Samourai, very poppy films. But like,
in fact, they're a bit populist films. I mean, anyone can watch these films if you're okay with black and white foreign films.
Army of Shadows is so fucking sad.
You block out time for that.
Yeah.
You go, okay, I've already watched Schindler's List. Okay.
And I don't mean sad like, I sit there and cry like there's the emotion manipulation going on. No, I just mean like when I'm watching the movie, I feel like it's cold in the room. Like I feel distant and weird. And
I have never watched the TV show The Americans next to a fire. If I did, I didn't notice it.
No, but like it's a thing, So, and I don't want to say, I'm glad we did it. I'm glad it's over. It's both.
I had that way with Tarkovsky, where I'm like, I
kind of had that way with Tarkovsky too.
Like those are some perfect films there. Need to watch The American, and oh boy, let's do this musical that won't backfire on me.
Well, that's kind of
Gene Kelly.
But that's kind of how I chose my next 5 too.
Let's get into it.
Let's rate these films first.
Of course.
So this was your 5, so I'll rate first. I think that's what we did.
Well, you have to go 5 to 1, right?
Yeah, 5 to 1. So
let's just 5 is
Les Cercle Rouge, then Bob Le Flambeur, then Les Samurai, then Army of Shadows, and my favorite is Morin Priest.
I mean, I go Les Cercle Rouge, Bob Le Flambeur, which I still really like a lot.
So we have the same bottom 2.
And then, the next 3 are all 5-star films for me. And on this viewing, I feel these are 3 going to switch for me every time I watch these. Mm-hmm. Morin Priest, Les Samurai, Army of Shadows.
Okay. That surprised me. I thought you'd have Les Samurai number 1.
Again,
3 5-star films to you.
Yeah, they really are. And Army of Shadows just hit me even more this time. Of just like how bold it is structurally, how consistent it is with this tone, and I mean, there's not a false moment in that movie. Again, all those are amazing films to me. Even though Cercle Rouge didn't like that much. A year from now, someone goes and watch it again. I go, I bet I'm going to find something. Like I trust Melville to go. There has to be something here because like you're going for something. I do want to mention one of the films that I think I briefly mentioned in the last episode. I just want to talk about it because I think you'd like it. Not recommend watching now because I think you need to walk away from Melville and come back, I think. But the earliest film of his is a film that also Criterion released. It's called Le Silence de l'amour. And, the description's way too long. I'm not going to read the whole thing aloud. It is, like, the danger of one of our Bill of Rights. You know, like how I don't forget which amendment it is, but how, like, no soldier can just, like, live in your house. This happens, where a Nazi just says, this is my house now, basically. I'm going to stay here while it's happening, to a Jewish family who decide to react to his presence by just being silent. And it just becomes, like, it's not a very long movie. In fact, it's like maybe 80 minutes long. It's just almost a great play of this German soldier essentially trying to get anything out of them. Not, like, information, just like, come on, guys, you know what? You guys don't talk? We're all having dinner. That I forced you to make for me. You want to talk? You get some amazing voiceover. It's a really, really good movie. And I just caught that on a whim just because, oh, it's Melville. I'm going to watch this movie.
You just said Melville.
Melville.
You just said Melville.
Bam.
Can I transition?
Please do.
So, kind of going with, I mentioned this earlier, he went with Gene Kelly to counter the Tarkovsky. Yeah. So to counter Melville for me, just to lighten the mood a little bit, the next 5 we will be covering are Harrison Ford films. The films we are going to cover are not a 2-parter, but a special episode.
It's a blending.
Leading off with Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. So Star Wars: A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. Then we're doing Raiders of the Lost Ark. Then Witness. Then The Fugitive. And finishing off finally with the recent classic, at least
Hollywood
in my opinion.
Homicide.
Blade Runner. You couldn't resist.
Nope.
Blade Runner 2049. So we're looking forward to that next week. We'll start off with the Star Wars, or
not next
Friday.
week. 2 days. Yeah.
2 days. We'll start off with the Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. Oh God, Star Wars: A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back episode.
I mentioned that we're doing those 2 to somebody. Someone goes, "You're doing the entire series and The Empire Strikes Back?" I call it Star Wars. It's called Star Wars.
Yeah, the first one to me is like Star Wars.
I still call it Star Wars.
Yeah. The real first.
I get what you mean by New Hope. I just don't always say it.
That came later anyway. The movie was originally called Star Wars.
I did remember as a kid that...
that confused me.
They put on the VHS. Yeah. I didn't want to watch it because I mixed up Star Wars and Star Trek. I'm like, it looks so boring. Turn the VHS. Episode 4. We're not even watching the first one?
Yeah, I know those VHSs. Because that got all added later.
With the Leonard Maltin interviewing.
Leonard Maltin interviews at the beginning. They weren't very good interviews.
I watched it once as a kid, going like, I like movies. I was just like, no, this is rough.
It's really boring.
But you always knew when it was over, because fast forward was very convenient when he's not on screen anymore. Anywho, those are tidbits you're going to get on Friday as we discuss Harrison Ford. I'm excited for this.
Yeah. I don't think we've had a Poppy or 5, with the exception of Spielberg.
No, yeah. I mean, Billy Wilder's films are super fun to watch, but they're still like 50 years ago.
But that's still a genre.
Yeah,
this is going to be all over the place.
I'm excited for this.
And Witness isn't Poppy.
No, it's not.
The Fugitive's kind of Poppy.
Blade Runner-ish.
Yeah, I mean, no one went and saw it.
No one.
So it's,
but also up for a bunch of Oscars.
Good.
Kind of a nice surprise.
Yeah, it should have got a screenplay nomination, in my opinion. But I digress.
So not looking forward to that movie because that director just bugs the shit out of me.
Well, he did an incredible job, and I didn't. You know what? We'll talk about it.
I've been waiting for a film of his I would like, and it finally happened. So, yeah, cool.
I don't like Blade Runner.
Oh, neither do I.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, fuck that movie.
Yeah, I know. So, like, it got really weird that I liked this movie that much. But,
yeah.
Oh, well. Tune in next week?
Yeah, you want to lead us out? Lead us out?
What did I got to say? I forgot.
We got some shit to say. We got a website.
Comment there. Do that. I can't.
The website's theartmore.com. You can leave a comment here about Jean-Pierre Melville or the upcoming Harrison Ford 5, so that's what you're looking forward to. While you're there, you can check out some other cool stuff, like the Immortals podcast, Ad Absurdum podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the Immortals Pod. Email us at letstake5@artmore.com. Please leave us a review on iTunes. Helps us out a lot. People find our show. And, get excited, because we have to go to a galaxy far, far away a long time ago. Nailed it. That's the exact right order, too. Star Wars.
Long time ago. You can catch me on YouTube, by the way, Constant Diversion.
I should put it on my notes.
These wrap-up episodes, we get all goofy.
So it's a goofy show.
Beer. All right, everyone. Probably. Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I like the way certain directors approach genre and try to kind of mythologize it and make it their own, whether it be Sergio Leone going into westerns and then creating a world of his own with westerns, and then even with outfits, whether it be the long dusters that they wore and the poncho that the man with no name wore, and the kind of almost Union outfit that Lee Van Cleef would wear. And those were like specific suits of armor for his character that were mythic. And if you went to France and you looked at the gangster films that Jean-Pierre Melville did, which were kind of very similar, even though he was going about it in a French way, it's very similar to what I was trying to do, where he was like, he'd take genre stories from Warner Brothers' heyday and then kind of do it in his French style and have it take place in Pigalle as opposed to Hell's Kitchen. But again, he had a sense of style for his characters, with their snap brim fedoras and their trench coats and their raincoats. Yeah, Bogart wore that kind of stuff, but man, when you see Belmondo wear it and when you see Alain Delon wear it, wow, okay, it has this specific look, and that became the suit of armor for his characters. And in the 80s, you had John Woo doing his version of gangster stuff and he's taking from Melville. Right, he's taking from Raoul Walsh, he's taking, so everyone's taking from everybody else. But, John Woo's characters had their own suit of clothing and their own glasses and the way they wore would a match in their mouth or whatever.